If you ever feel like your money just doesn't stretch as far as it used to, you're not alone. Across the world, millions of working adults are discovering that no matter how hard they try, their financial progress feels stuck. Incomes rise slowly, expenses climb faster, and saving money feels like trying to fill a leaking bucket. But when you look at the actual number, the real data behind how people are earning, saving, and spending, the picture becomes even more unsettling. Because the truth is this: the average person today isn't just struggling a little. They're falling behind, quietly, consistently, and often without realizing how deep the problem runs. Let's start with something simple: income. According to the latest data, the median annual income in the United States in 2025 sits around $59,000 before taxes. That might sound decent at first glance, but once you factor in inflation, that number buys significantly less than it did just a few years ago. Rent, groceries, health insurance, and basic utilities have all climbed faster than wages. The result is that even though people are technically earning more, they're living with less breathing room. What's even more striking is how uneven the income landscape really is. The top 10% of earners control roughly nearly half of all income, while the bottom 50% share less than 10%. That means the typical worker, whether they're in an office, on the road, or working from home, is effectively competing in an economy tilted heavily toward those who already have wealth. This imbalance isn't new, but it's getting worse. Decades ago, a single income could support a family, pay a mortgage, and leave room for savings. Today, two incomes often struggle to cover just the basics. Housing, in particular, has become the biggest financial chokehold for the average person. The average rent in 2025 for a one-bedroom apartment in the U.S. is over $1,800 a month, up more than 25% in just the past 4 years. Home ownership, once considered the foundation of financial stability, is increasingly out of reach. The median home price now sits around $420,000, while the average mortgage rate hovers near 6.8%. That means the typical monthly payment for new buyers has doubled compared to just 5 years ago. And yet, salaries haven't caught up. That gap between income and housing cost is one of the key reasons more people are living paycheck to paycheck. In fact, as of early 2025, 61% of Americans say they live paycheck to paycheck, including more than 40% of people earning over $100,000 a year. It's not just a low-income problem anymore, it's a system-wide one. Savings tell an even harsher story. The median savings balance for working adults is just $5,300. Nearly 1 in 4 have no savings at all. Even among people in their 40s and 50s, supposedly peak earning years, the average retirement account balance is often less than $80,000. To put that in perspective, that amount would barely cover 2 years of expenses for most households in retirement. And that's where the quiet fear starts to set in. People know they should be saving more. They hear about emergency funds, investment accounts, and retirement plans. But for many, the math simply doesn't add up. When rent, food, transport, and healthcare already consume nearly everything, there's little left to save. And the psychological weight of that, the feeling of never being ahead, shapes how people think about money in deeper ways than they admit. Debt fills the gap that savings leave behind. The average household debt in 2025 has reached about $155,000, including mortgages, car loans, and credit cards. Credit card balances alone are at record highs, over $1.3 trillion collectively, with average interest rates now exceeding 22%. That means someone carrying a $5,000 balance is paying more than $1,000 a year just in interest. Debt, once a temporary bridge, has become a lifestyle for millions, a quiet treadmill that keeps people working harder without moving forward. When you zoom out, the picture becomes even clearer. The economy has grown, corporate profits have soared, the stock market continues to break records, yet the typical person doesn't feel richer. In fact, according to recent surveys, over 70% of workers say they feel financially stuck, that no matter what they do, their situation doesn't improve. So, what's really happening? Why are so many people working longer hours, juggling multiple jobs, and still struggling to feel secure? Part of it comes down to the structure of modern living. The essentials, housing, education, healthcare, childcare, have grown dramatically more expensive, while wages have barely budged in real terms. 40 years ago, the average cost of a home was about 3 times the median annual income. Today, it's over 7 times. College tuition has tripled since the early 2000s, and health insurance premiums continue to climb faster than inflation almost every single year. This creates a kind of invisible financial squeeze, one that isn't always captured by headlines or statistics. It's the feeling of paying all your bills, doing everything right, and still realizing you're no closer to financial stability. It's the stress that comes from watching prices rise faster than your paycheck. It's the quiet frustration of knowing that even if you earn more, your costs will rise too, keeping you in the same place. And the truth is, this isn't about personal failure. It's about structural imbalance. The cost of living has outpaced income growth for decades. For the average person, that means each year your dollars buy a little less, your savings earn a little less, and your financial margin for error shrinks a little more. This creates a kind of invisible financial squeeze, one that isn't always captured by headlines or statistics. It's the feeling of paying all your bills, doing everything right, and still realizing you're no closer to financial stability. It's the stress that comes from watching prices rise faster than your paycheck. It's the quiet frustration of knowing that even if you earn more, your costs will rise too, keeping you in the same place. And the truth is, this isn't about personal failure. It's about structural imbalance. The cost of living has outpaced income growth for decades. For the average person, that means each year your dollars buy a little less, your savings earn a little less, and your financial margin for error shrinks a little more. But despite the bleak data, there's another side to this story. While the average person struggles, wealth is concentrating faster than ever. The top 1% now hold around 32% of the nation's wealth, while the bottom half share just 2.5%. For the wealthy, money compounds automatically through assets, stocks, property, businesses. For everyone else, it circulates, earned, spent, and gone. That's why most people feel stuck. When your income relies only on labor, your wealth grows as fast as your effort. But those who own assets see their wealth grow passively through appreciation and compounding. Since the pandemic, that gap has widened. The top 10% gained over 40% in wealth, while the bottom half barely moved, often taking on more debt just to cope. Yet within the averages, there's hope. Because for every person drowning in bills, someone with the same income is quietly building stability. The difference is leverage. Not financial leverage, but behavioral. Small, consistent actions like saving automatically, investing regularly, and avoiding debt compound quietly over time. What most people overlook is that wealth doesn't start with money, it starts with margin. Margin of time, energy, and decision-making. When you create just a little space between what you earn and what you spend, that space becomes power. It gives you options, and over time, those small options turn into freedom. The kind that most people think only high income can buy. Once you see the patterns, the traps, the spending cycles, the financial noise, you stop playing the same game. Because wealth isn't built in big wins. It's built in quiet, consistent actions that seem invisible until they suddenly aren't. The numbers may be discouraging, but they're not destiny. You still have agency to save when it's hard, invest when it's boring, and live below the system's expectations. In the end, money stats aren't just financial data, they're a mirror. They reflect how people think, react, and behave under pressure. And the moment you stop identifying with the average, the moment you choose awareness over autopilot, is the moment your financial story begins to change.